No, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you Professor rather, starts with Professor Lord Parekh. He's got an amazing mind, an amazing heart. He was the author of Runnymede Project, which was a very important project for multiculturalism. And he's author of over 40 books, which actually encompass this idea we're talking about, what Baroness Verma was saying, how to bring people together. We are one family. So Lord Parekh has a lot to say, and if I want to give her the CV, it will take all our time. So what I would say is by listening to Lord Parekh, you'll understand what a great man he is. Lord Parekh, the floor is yours. Unmute, please. Can somebody unmute Lord Parekh?
There we go.
Okay. You can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Wonderful.
Oh, thank you. I thought it was a kind of ghostly voice coming from nowhere. Well, first of all, many thanks, Margaret, for those kind words. And I think the thing I want to do is more to talk as a professor than as a lord. The lord is something which other people give you. Professor is something for which you work hard. And I want to look at this whole question a little bit abstractly. If you look at the world today, you find two contradictory trends. On the one hand, there is more and more interdependence. There is more solidarity in terms of food, in terms of clothes. People wear more or less the same kinds of clothes, whether they are in China or here or wherever. Food, habits, flying, all sorts of things. The degree of interdependence is so great that a virus in one part of the world can affect millions 10,000 miles away. This would have been unthinkable 30, 40 years ago. So first of all, you have this enormous degree of interdependence. On the other hand, there is also a reaction against this global interdependence, this globality of our existence. And people are saying, look, we are losing our anchors. We are losing our roots. The tree is expanding, but in the process of expanding, its roots are falling apart. How do we combine these two tendencies? The tendency to spread out, to embrace others in the world, but at the same time not to forget who you are, where you come from. And since there is this feeling of becoming rootless, there is this strong desire to hold on to what you have, which leads to the crazy kind of politics that Trump had been playing for 4 years, and which right-wing people play in every part of the world, holding on to what you have, afraid of being swarmed, so-called swarmed by other cultures. And the question, therefore, is, I want to hold on to what my inheritance is, ignoring what the world has to offer. So I think we are now in a world where there is this constant tension between what I have and what I want, what I'm expected to hold on to, because that is the source of my identity. And on the other hand, the world is opening up and I want to embrace the world. And it's in this context that we should be talking about unity, interfaith dialogue, and all those things that we are doing. Because if we simply look at the globality of our existence, people being interdependent, then of course we'll talk about the world being united and all that, forgetting that on the other hand, there is this tendency to hold on to what you have, and therefore people are not interested in what we are talking about. In other words, can we be united? Can we seek world unity in such a way as not to forget the other impulse that we also have? And if we forget that, we are lost. And this, to me, is one of the biggest problems of politics in every part of the world, be it China or the United States. How can you nurture a sense of rootedness while at the same time opening up your mind and heart to the rest of the world? How can you both be rooted and open? That's where youth comes in. Because one keeps hoping that unlike the old people like me and some others, the young are not rooted in the sense that they are stuck into a certain way of thinking. They have open minds and open hearts and may therefore be far more sensible about the world that's unfolding around them. But that is not the case. And that's another important point to bear in mind. that the youth can be just as closed-minded, just as rigid as the old. We have seen that in many parts of the world. So the question then is, how do we cultivate the youth such that they become much more open to the world around them? And here I want to emphasize just two important points, and then I should stop. First is this talk about interfaith dialogue, interfaith network, interfaith unity. I think if the youth remain just as religious as their fathers or forefathers were. All surveys, Pew Center and other surveys show that the youth remain, in fact, just as religious as their fathers were, their forefathers were. The difference is that their religion has taken a particular form. With their fathers, religion was taken as a matter of identity. You take it in your stride, you don't have to flaunt it. For the young, religion has become an ideology, a badge of your identity, and therefore something to flaunt, something to talk about, something to be proud of. And when religion takes that form, there is always a danger. It becomes much more fanatical. Because then religion is not simply something you happen to have, something you happen to possess. Rather, it possesses you. You become its follower. And when that sort of thing happens, religions become hostile to each other. They are like modern states. Just as each state has its own citizens, each religion has its own followers. Just as the state has its own boundary, the religion has its own boundary. And the world gets mapped up, broken up into this little closed world. And as long as one thinks in terms of these closed, isolated, ghettoized universes, it becomes very difficult to combine into any kind of sensible partnership. Which is why I think it's very dangerous, in my view, to talk about interfaith as opposed to interreligious. Because religion involves faith, but it is not entirely a matter of faith. Because if it did make it a matter of faith, then faith has no reasons behind it. Faith can't be proved. It can't be argued about. It's a matter of faith. And if it's a matter of faith, then anything goes. Whereas religion, as its etymology would show, as its understanding would show, involves faith, a leap of faith. But at the same time, it's not just faith. It also involves reasoning. And therefore, I would always insist that we should not reduce religion to a matter of faith. Religion is a way of understanding the universe in terms of a certain kind of transcendental principle, within which faith has a small part to play. And finally, and absolutely finally, the important point, I think, for all of us to bear in mind is this world, how do we set it right? Where do we start? The youth have a role to play. We also have a role to play. The elder generation has a role to play in terms of setting the right example, the right model. And there, I think, we have a lot of work to do. Just one last point, I think, that a lot of work that we have to do is to, in terms of creating a world in which boundaries are constantly transcended. Boundaries are accepted, but also constantly transcended in order to reach out to those on the other side of the wall. As long as we have that spirit of intellectual openness and openness of the heart, there is some hope. The day we lose both, the day we stop losing interest in other world, other cultures, other civilizations, other religions, and become obsessed with our own, that is the day when the world will be doomed. And I think our question simply is, how do we continue to inspire our youth to think in terms of an open world and an open heart?